Oh, landmines and jellyfish. Welcome back to Knives, I guess. And if you've ever watched Jaws, E.T., and Jurassic Park in a row, Steven Spielberg knows where you live. You should probably go into hiding. But for the last week, I've been carrying the Steel Will Cutjack. And this is a gift from Adam for America, so let's take a second to thank him in the comments for making this possible. Let's take a look at what we got real quick. And first things first, and most importantly, the pocket clip is tip up, which is the Lord's carry. It's reversible. The scale's on the handle. The Amazon listing in one spot says G10 fiber. Another spot it says fiberglass. And my first thought was this feels like FRN. So I applied some basic Google foo and looked up the specs, and indeed it is FRN. So we got a flipper tab here. Let's flick the bean. We have got a 3-inch D2 steel blade. According to Amazon, the special feature is it's a folding knife, and the target gender is unisex. And I did carry this, and I used it. One of the most interesting things about this is, you guys know I carry everything in the waistband for pocket space and convenience. This thing wound up living in my pocket way more than the waistband. So, it was one of those things where it was just convenient and faster to keep it in the pocket, and this is probably the best one that I've given pocket time to now that I think about it and try it out. This has been the best one so far. I've got other stuff that's smaller that would carry even better than this, but so far, out of the ones I remembered to test like that, this one was the best. It was the easiest to get my keys out with. It was easiest to get, the rest of my stuff out of my pocket with. It did really, really well there. And, it functions pretty smoothly. I believe it's on washers. And, it's one of the things that came up was the cut test on the saran wrap on the pallets. It struggled with that, which felt a little weird because the edge feels sharper than that. It didn't really do much in the way of shaving. It was kind of one of those where I had to press down and it pulled the hair a little bit. But let's take a look at the cut on the copy paper real quick. Let me bork the first cut right away. There we go. We got that out of the way now. Yep, see, I'm borking cuts. But you can see, it definitely handles that cut really well. I got that on the third try. And, of course, the cardstock. You've got a clean cut right here with not really any rag on the edges. So one of two things is happening here, and somebody in the comments is going to chime in and let me know which one is right. This may just be not as sharp as I think it is. It's a fairly sharp edge. I don't know if this is a factory edge or not. It's a little bit polished, and I can't tell if that's from the factory or done after the fact. But it's either it's a little bit duller than I think it is, or the edge isn't toothy enough. I'm not sure. I'm no expert. I don't know everything. Now, we're going to take a look at that because the next knife I'm going to carry has a really, really dull edge because it was a display knife. I'm going to put my own edge on there and mirror polish it as much as I possibly can, and we're going to see if there's a difference. Now, the thing with this thing, and one other thing to note, is the D2 has got this finish on it, and the billboarding right here was pretty obvious when I first started carrying it, and it's kind of worn in, and the billboarding is very hard to see. So, depending on your perspective and what you prefer, this is either a good thing or a minor nuisance. I don't care either way. Some guys don't like the billboarding. It's still in the steel. You can feel it when you run your finger over it, but it's really hard to see now. And some guys don't like the billboarding, and this will be a good case of it being there and then kind of hiding if your results are the same as mine. I fed it one of the most hardcore pieces of cardboard, that I have fed anything. The watermelon bins at work are incredibly thick, incredibly heavy duty for obvious reasons. I pushed it through that. It cut. It wasn't necessarily happy with the amount of pressure I had to put on it. But, doing regular cardboard, it blazed through it just fine. It's definitely slicey enough. There's a tiny, tiny bit of a hollow grind into a small flat right here, and then you hit the swedge. And, of course, the hollow grinds don't like cardboard as much as a full flat, but, this thing did fine. I guess the best word to describe this is, generally speaking, unremarkable. There's nothing super special about it that really, really sets it apart from everything else. It's just a good knife that functions really well. The handle's a bit on the small side, but it's not the biggest knife in the world. I don't have any dingus end hanging out right here, but I got a little bit of dingus end right here. And, that's not a problem for me. Like, I'm not heavy using it. And when I pushed it through that watermelon bin, it wasn't really that bad. Like, the handle was comfortable. I just had to, like, really put a ton of pressure on it. And it took it. It took it well enough, but, like, it was so much force I had to apply to this thing. So, I carried it, it did well, otherwise unremarkable, and I will say the lanyard bead on here is quite cool. You've got what I assume is titanium, and it's flamed out to where you got a nice straw color into a blue, and I really love that. I kind of always wanted one of these lanyard beads. This kind of stuff is what inspired me to start making my own, and, it just, it was definitely a good carry. Like, overall, good carry. And, it's on Amazon for $29.59, and it's in the black scales and not the blue. And for, essentially $30, it's really, really hard to go wrong with this thing. Like, if you like what you see here, you definitely can't go wrong with it. The liner lock, the liner is a tad thicker than most knives in this price range, which I really like. That's a bit more solid and a little harder to fail. And I mean, it's centered really, really well on the blade right here. Like, the lockup is definitely firm on it. And yeah, and pulling it out of the pocket, deploying it, the detent is a little tight on it. Like, you had to push a little harder than you expect. So every so often I'd pull it out and I'd put pressure on the flipper tab and it didn't go, and I had to try again, and then it popped open. So if you like a stiff detent, definitely, at least this one right here is set up very well for that. Like, I don't mind the stiff detent, but I'm used to one a little bit lighter and tuned a little bit differently. I will say there was no fear of it partially deploying in my pocket or my waistband. It did really well there, so no complaints with that. And I think my overall score is going to be like 7.5 out of 10. We'd be pushing into 8.5 territory if there was something really special that stood out about this. And, again, outside of being a really good carry and something that worked really well and did everything it was supposed to, there's nothing really standing out about it that grabs me by the short and curlies. The price is great. The function is great. It carries well. And all that is plenty to give it a good score. It's just if it has something special with it, maybe the detent tuned a little better, maybe something a little flashier on the handle, just something. So again, great value, works really well, great for the price, overall really good. So I'm going to move on to the next one for this next week here, but I'm happy to share the results on this one and happy to share the absolute lack of complaints on it. So yeah, all that being said, thanks for looking at my crap. Subscribers, you guys are awesome. Y'all keep coming in, and I am so grateful for that. We are on our way to 2,000 right now, and at 2,000, I've got 4 knives to give away. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. Try to win yourself a knife. And, comments, I love some feedback. Let me know what you think about what you saw here. If you've got one of these, let everybody know what your experience is or anything else. And all that being said, y'all have a nice day.